everybody. How's it going? Good morning. Kind of an early session here, but I figured I had some time today. Today is my day off. I don't teach on Tuesdays. So from now on, I'm going to try to wake up in the morning, get my kids out the door, my wife off to work, and hopefully come down and join any and everybody that might be interested in talking about guitar for a little bit, and then get on with my honey-do list, which is excessive, but I can neglect it from time to time. So when I want to, I do this. This is Office Hours, and I'm Jack Devine, and welcome. If you haven't attended an Office Hours, hey, welcome. And if you have, hey, welcome back. Today, I figured I would kind of take a different turn from where I was yesterday. I gave everybody a mouthful of Dorian to think about and chew on quite a lot. Today I'm looking at more of an ambient and a slightly more, well, not slightly, completely more tranquil kind of experience out of the guitar, which is one of the elements of the instrument that I feel is greatly overlooked by a lot of folks. Coming from playing a lot of acoustic music and soundtrack stuff and, orchestral, like orchestrating tracks and things like that, I've developed a palette of techniques and skills that may seem a little elusive to some guitar players, and one of them is crafting kind of more, I guess, this kind of ambient sound that I associate with Daniel Lanois' work, and in particular, I think that his craft never exceeded the work that he did with Emmylou Harris on the Wrecking Ball album. And if anybody out there is interested in the kind of sounds that I was just making, I'm absolutely stealing hand over fist from Daniel Lanois. And that song, Waterfall, is an adaptation of Jimi Hendrix's song, which hard to believe that much in the way that I feel Hendrix's cover of All Along the Watchtower eclipses the original Dylan version. I feel that the Emmylou Harris version, and this is saying quite a lot because I am a diehard Hendrix fan. It's not often that someone's interpretation of Jimi Hendrix exceeds that of the auteur, but I believe that this is more my style. Anyway, today we're hearing the 335, going through a fair amount of effects, actually. If we start out with the clean sound, you'll hear still some reverb, right? And I'm playing an A chord. And I'm allowing the guitar to kind of ring. And then I go kind of like this and play the D with the A in the bass. Sorry, that low E doesn't make it until we're over the pure A chord. And that's what's going on in the back of this loop. I'm using a little palm muting to give it a little bit more of that percussive sound. And then there's a bass that just kind of comes in on the low notes, right? All right, so just two chords, right? A to D. So my first order of attack is pentatonics over both, major pentatonics over both. So that's the A pentatonic major. And then over D. And I'm not really interested in the flat 3. I'm actually going deliberately for more of the term I often use is pastoral, meaning that it feels more like open, like definitely not about being gritty, but more about beauty. And this is the element of the guitar sound that I'm after most, actually. So I have the 335 often set in this kind of chimey, both pickups sound. And the real key to this is I've got there's a little reverb there in the back, and one little delay like I normally have, right? So that's not too dissimilar to my normal clean sound. But what I do have is this. All right, now this is, you're gonna hear there's some delays, but they're getting progressively darker and grittier as they travel, and they actually warble a little bit. So there's a little modulation on, and it kind of smears behind you. All right, it does have a few, so that's a dotted eighth note that the okay, and everybody thinks that's the Edge, but it's really Daniel Lanois style. If you ask the Edge where he learned how to create those soundscapes, it's from Daniel Lanois, all right, who was the producer for, well, in tandem with another hero of mine, Brian Eno, starting at the Unforgettable Fire album, which is probably like the last old school sounding U2 record that ever came out. So if you haven't heard anything older than Joshua Tree, then you're in for a real treat. There's some really spectacular guitar atmospherics that are there, and that's courtesy of the Electro-Harmonix Memory Man, using tandem with a slightly broken up AC30, and then, believe it or not, into the front end of the amp, running through a Korg digital delay with a nice little preamp that actually creates this kind of warbling effect that I generate on this layer of sound, which has more reverb. Okay, quite a lot of throw, but it's quiet. All right, and then there's a vibrato that's working at the same time. All right, so as that warbles in pitch, so too does the reverb behind it, and in tandem with the delay, you get a lot of... And that's the sound that's happening over top of our loop. I can sit there and do this for, I don't know, hours. To me, this is like the equivalent of musical smack. This is... So I'm going, or even from the 6. Okay, and then again with that same melody. To the D. My sweet waterfall. So major pentatonic. Up there, up that A. And then back to the major 7 over that. Right. Pretty melody. You can pull back off the flat 3, right? Watch. Neck pickup, a little bit of dirt. Now, one of the things that I'll occasionally do when I do this is I'll start to add in a little bit more modality, and some they might be seeing this as us going from a 5 chord to the root chord in D major, rather than seeing as being going from the 1 chord in A major to the 4 chord in A major, right? Because when you do it when you see it that way, I don't really hear A major working so great over top of this. And then a D Lydian. I'd hear it more like out of D major. So that would be a Mixolydian. And then D major. rather than assigning it any of those modalities, I tend to lean heaviest on that more open pastoral sound of the pentatonic major. That's the... I'm not hitting any sevenths or fourths. That's really what's happening. So 6/9 arpeggios. Oops, there's one that I didn't want to hit. If you're going to hit that G, you make sure you do it right at the end of the phrase of the A, okay? Which occasionally I'll do, but generally speaking, tend to avoid, okay? So A major pentatonic, pretty simple, right? Pentatonic. And then back to A. So A major pentatonic again. I find that to be absolutely soothing. It just, it's like an enema for all the anger that's inside my body. It is the most cleansing thing to just go blah, goodbye and let go of all the New York in me and just allow, just feels like a sort of baptism of peace. It's really quite majestic when you harness that sound. So let me show you a couple of tricks that I love. All right, one, starting on the root of whatever chosen pentatonic major you're after, is that lick. That's kind of playing with a blue note in there. Or you can find a more graceful way of playing. And now we're in a different part of the neck. All right, so this. See how I'm sliding back? And then doing a pivot. So that was me using that G to create that tension. Let's hear it over top of that loop. unfortunately, you are hearing a little bit of the microphone, and it gets a little snappy when my guitar is muted. Okay, so that's why when I do those opening jams, usually I have the microphone off, and you're hearing just the DI of the Kemper rather than an even more spacious sound that comes out of the speaker. But I have not been able to figure out how to harness the ambience of my room in a productive way. So this is as good as it gets, folks. All right, and here I am on the middle pickup, and I've got a little blend. There's a little less of the bridge pickup here. And I've got the tone rolled back quite a bit, actually, out of the bridge. You're hearing that kind of bright chime. But still, the amp is the guitar's tone is rolled back to 5. And on the neck pickup, kind of dark and thuddy. That's that major pentatonic sound. And then for those of you that aren't familiar with what's going on, all right, on the guitar, there's these connections between particular chords and therefore their proprietary scales. And the relationship between them is often described as being relative to one another, meaning they're connected, they're related, right? So kind of like, you could think about it like somebody's cousin looks a little bit like them or has the same DNA, but they aren't the same, right? So A major, all right, shares the same 5 notes in its pentatonic scale, in its major pentatonic scale, as F sharp minor does in its minor scale. All right, it's just we're used to starting from the root. Okay, but if you started on its minor third, those positions all translate to now being the major pentatonic for A. Okay, very, very straight ahead approach. All right, and then you should be shocked just playing the same ideas up here, doing the same trick relative to D major, B minor. All right, it's going to work over the second chord in our thing, right? So let's just think about going from F sharp minor to B minor. Now again, F sharp minor. Okay, you hear me using that little G, right? Just kind of suspending, right? Suspending that sound of the, and actually adding in this little flat 7 before it relieves into there. I don't know. I use it from time to time. It's not my everyday trick, but generally speaking, right? So let's look at, rather than thinking about things as being the relative minor of all these chords, just learn them as a major pentatonic instead of. Now this is a bit of a stretch for most people, but I would strongly encourage those of you who haven't already committed the time to learning. See how I'm now on the pinky on the root? I'm not a fan of that approach. Even though many would say, oh, this is definitely more orthodox, okay? More folks are going to teach it to you like that. Okay, but I like, all right, and I tend to keep that in reserve for another move, or so that really most of the time it's because I think about playing out of chord positions. See, right? If you slide up here, this is not an easy way to resolve. So I'm more tempted to go and be in the chord position when I come back into there, okay? Okay. So don't worry about thinking about it, but if you know your F sharp minor pentatonics and your B minor pentatonics, then trust me, you already know the scales I'm using, right? What you don't understand, potentially, is that, you know, where the notes are that you want to be hitting, right? All right, the temptation, obviously, is for you to utilize your major scale knowledge, and that's not going to serve you very well here because, like I said, this, you don't want to hear do-do-do-do-do-do-do. You want to hear more. That's enough notes. That's enough notes to tell a story, I promise you. You only need these 5. These 5 sound great. Maybe you might want to think about adding a little color via slides. That kind of thing, okay? So I'm utilizing my index finger in the what I would think of as like the first position and the slightly once removed, just like... That's the bigger, more clunky move. So a lot of people will then say, even here. Right, but again, then you're not in a chord position, really. You can't really finish anything. All right, but, you know, whatever. You'll find your way. So then you're going to want to know those. And here. Right. I mixed in a little bit of that 4. Right, that's a nice note. We know we're headed there, so kind of makes sense to utilize this this D note sometimes. Okay. So the idea of A major pentatonic in all of its 5 forms, right? Right? And then, right, so we're going to need it out of this kind of G-shaped, right? We're going to need it out of the C, the A, the G, the E, and the D. All right, now I'm not a big caged guy, but it does work nicely for examining pentatonic shapes and forms. And you're a total doofus if you discredit the power of this sound. This open sound of that, that's a big sound, a big contributor to that. When you hear that, right, that's, okay, sorry. Ultimately, we hear some Mixolydian notes in there with that 4. And then, but still, you know, a lot of Hendrix utilized that open sound of the pentatonic with the occasional flat 7 in there, or maybe even with that 4. All right, so kind of this brackish water between pure Mixolydian, yeah, but it doesn't really sound so mixo. It sounds more pentatonic with additional color tones. So here I am again. Now let's look at some ideas. Let's get the full complement of. Right, so I'm a big fan of utilizing some of these Django shapes when I play over top of these chords, and I'll try to teach you something here. It's basically between these 2 fingers. Now, granted, Django played it. Right, he just used these 2 fingers because these guys were kind of welded together. Somehow they fused together from a fire. So he, you know, that's why you see a lot of like 6/9 chords out of him, because that's all he could play, you know. But it's funny that somebody being injured actually influenced the sound of the chords that he lean towards. But anyway, let's take a look at these shapes. We're going to go 1, 3, 5, like that. We're going to keep, I call these slinky shapes because they kind of like the old toy that used to go like that down the stairs. Well, the index finger hops, kind of goes and keeps hopping up. So 1, 3, 5 is our first shape, and we're just using these two fingers. Okay. Whoops. Finally using the middle finger. Okay, so that's how we can loop it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Now, that's an important shape, and you could easily just bring it up. Let's get rid of some of that delay. Okay, and last but not least, we should definitely learn the minor shape. Okay, so just take all your C sharps and turn them into C's over top of the A, and now you're playing A minor. Okay, so consequently, remember what I said about playing pentatonics. You could actually play that right there is effectively an A6 arpeggio because we're playing F sharp minor over top of an A chord. Okay, and then over top of the B, over top of the D chord, we could play B minor, right? And we'd wait here. And then back. Okay, and that's how you can access relative major and minor things and kind of double your returns on the time spent to learn these shapes. Okay, so major, or minor. Oh, okay, I don't really play the minor varieties too often, and obviously I think if you wanted to, you could take the time to acquire some other tonalities. You could learn I'm sure there are diminished varieties and other things. The only real variable I'll add is an approach tone into the third, like that, instead of, you know. That's kind of one of the vibes that I'll definitely... Okay, and that's just thinking about arpeggio shapes. If you don't think about chord tones and arpeggios more than scales, you're going to hurt yourself. In the long run, I think it holds you back. Especially when you talk about 7-note scales. Pentatonics are kind of like the nice midway point between arpeggios or triads and the scale, right? It kind of gets rid of the more, I guess, risky choices that you can make that'll make your sound either very specific to that mode, or if you play the wrong one, very, very, okay? So sometimes it's better to remove the notes that could or, you know, the optionality of it. Even like don't even think about it. So when I think about these sounds, these kind of open, you know, that sound, you know, and particularly when you hear those two chords, you know, the sus2, right? Because that's a very effective sound over top of this, because we've got the A chord, and then we keep the top two notes. Right? It's going to sound really quite cinematic, you know, when you hear that. Now just keep the top two. Right, super super. Just a really lovely vibe. And you just, I don't know whether or not you guys are feeling what I get out of that, but I am very, very pleased when I'm stuck in that world. I do not feel the need to come out of that floating sensation. Ooh, I do love it. Anyway, this does translate to other sounds. Obviously, you can invert this knowledge and create sad sounds with it, which I'm not going to take the time to display. But the idea of taking these arpeggios, okay, and those are just 1s and 3s and 5s. That's largely just triadic study, right? But if we take the time, we can utilize those frames and actually add more information to them. So again, the idea of the slinky lick comes in very, very handy here. Let's take a look at what we're talking about when we look at the major pentatonic scale. If we play it in order, we get 1, okay, from the A, okay, A at the 12th fret. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, right? Okay, and we get our octave there. What I would suggest to you is for a certain amount of time, rather than playing it as it comes, try displacing the 2, okay, up an octave. Okay, so that means looking for it here. So then finding a 1, 3, 5, 6, 9. That sound, okay, tricks the listener. I'm going to fool you, basically, by giving you what you think is going to be a triad. And then all of a sudden, this ambiguous pair of notes caps it. Okay? And that's where the real magic happens, is by stacking up those. It's a very, very soothing sound. Okay, and then over the D, I'll do the same thing. So by stacking up 1, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, That's that F sharp minor pentatonic shape. But instead, I'm going to go right, like something like that. So let's watch. We'll do. Right, I'll do them like that. And I'll try to do the same idea off of this D root here. Melody. So that's all major pentatonic with the occasional little bit of flower power on top of it. A little, maybe I went, right, or something like that. A couple little flat threes probably in there just from force of habit. Playing a little too much blues. Sorry, I got a scratch here. I got a little itch. Ugh. All right. So really not that much to discuss. It's just that sound. And if you are interested in this fingering, it's detailed quite excessively in my tutorial that I gave called 6/9 Arpeggios. And you find it under the in the playlist for, I guess it's licks, tips, and techniques or something like that on the channel here. So the idea is that we're going to go... Let's get rid of some of that space. 1, 3, 5, and the middle finger comes here and plays the 6, and that's kind of the linchpin of the idea. So the linchpin is the middle finger is actually the lead finger. Root, 6. All right. So let's see, watch how the middle finger keeps shifting. Oops, sorry. See right there, there it is. And that's setting up that 6th arpeggio. There it is. Deliciously ambiguous. I love that. So this shape right here ultimately becomes very, very, you know, you'll see it later. There it is, more with the, right. That's the actual 6th. But, all right, boom, boom, boom. All right, and it basically, again, this whole technique stems from my obsession with 1-2-1 or 2-1-2 shaped arpeggios. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. So that is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, and then back over the D chord. Whoops. Kind of a bit of a reach for the pinky there. Okay. But you can see how the middle finger keeps doing the slinky thing. I think it's 1, 6, 3, right? Yeah. Okay, and it comes back exactly the same way. Okay, and this is, you know, you can find other fingerings that kind of cop this. Okay, if you want to look around for them. I kind of like this idea because it maintains the same picking structure. The 1-2-1-2s. to think about the right hand. I'm just looking at the left hand shapes to make sure. All right, and I tend to describe this kind of shape, one that moves backwards and diagonal, as a retreat arpeggio. And they come in very handy for when you start, if you're, let's say I was already playing up here, right? Right, I'm looking for a way to get back here, but make sense, have it make musical sounds. Okay. So there isn't too much more to share over top of something like this. It is a basic concept, but I think it's one that often will be, I guess it's an opportunity that's overlooked an awful lot by guitar players to try to bring a little beauty. That kind of U2-y sound, really, really captivating. Okay, and then you can even add overdrive. I think Lanois is kind of a master at that. He kind of uses his thumb most of the time. That kind of thing. A lot of that kind of. There's a nice interview actually with him running through his rig. I'm not sure if it's him going for quite a while talking about his rig. He's utilizing an old gold top, I think, with two P90s and either an AC30 or a Tweed Deluxe, and he's got the aforementioned Korg delays going into the front end of it, and it's quite a nice sound, I must say. This is the Kemper, and I'm using the Fender topology that I typically. But I'm definitely being generous, or some would say excessive, probably with the reverb. Okay, so that's pretty much the majesty of the major pentatonic there, all right? And we can look at, odd groupings of major pentatonics. We don't always have to be like, go. We can hear that kind of. I like that. I do like to do that a lot. So those are fours. That's not exactly an odd group, obviously, but the sourcing of the information, right? If we take it out of this this A shape at the 12th fret, and you want to learn this little trick from me, all right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we pivot back to the pinky, and then tackle the next 4 notes, and then again we pivot with the pinky. Or you can shift over if you want, because ultimately we're going to be able to come up. Well, that's a nice sound. Have a great day, okay?